In this one, we're going to be talking about 13 things. That's right, 13 things that I do not like about my Dodge Hellcat Challenger. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Jordan coming at you back with another Hellcat video. And in this one, we're going to be talking about 13 things that I do not like about my Dodge Hellcat Challenger. Now, let me say this. I love this car. I mean, I love it. You know what I'm saying? That kind of love. So don't get me wrong, but it's worth pointing out what these 13 things are, because as you own this car, these things are going to kind of matter to you, especially when you pay $70,000 for a car like this brand new. So with that said, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I do not like about my Hellcat is the seatbelt. Now, most of the time, I don't have an issue because when I get into the car, I can easily just pull the belt across and buckle it in. Well, sometimes what ends up happening, whether this is because of the way I release the belt or if I have to let somebody into the back seat, is that the actual seatbelt connector will slide through back to the B-post. Well, what this means is that in order to get the seatbelt, you got to literally like reach all the way here with the door shut, pull it through, right? And then proceed to connect as you normally would. But let's say you let it fall back, you can't really reach your left hand back to do it. So you have to do it with the right arm. So that's the first thing I don't like. So the next thing I don't like about my Hellcat is this center console. I mean, don't get me wrong, you have the buttons and you have the cup holders, but the one thing you don't really have is a place to, well, put your phone. I mean, I can probably put it there, but if I have drinks, that's not going to work. I can't really lay it across there because that's not long enough. So I end up literally taking my phone and I sit it like this. Well, I can tell you one thing. If you get on this car, if you're having, fun times with it, this will fly out of this holster. Now, there is a little storage compartment here, and like it'll fit in there, but it's kind of inconvenient. I mean, don't get me wrong, you do have auxiliary, USB, and everything, but that, to me, that's not an ideal place, because if you need to see what you need to do, on your phone or your screen, you're simply not going to be able to do that. So that's the second thing I do not like. Well, the third thing I don't like about my Hellcat is the visibility when you need to back up. Right now I have my camera positioned exactly where my head is when I'm sitting in my driver's seat. Well, as you can see, this headrest here will block the view, and then you kind of got to lean back. Lean back a little bit, then you might be able to see a little glimpse. But the problem is that if you're backing up, you will not really be able to see cars until they're sitting about this point right here in your side window. And I'm going to do a demonstration here now. Okay, now to kind of show you kind of how this will look, I'm going to take my GoPro and I'm going to mount it on my little tripod here. And what I want you to be able to see is that when I'm backing up, okay, I want you to see when it is that you can actually see me. You see what I mean? That way we can demonstrate what is a safe level that I can be back, but without risking, being in an accident. So what do you think, everybody? Do you think it's it's a little dangerous? Because from my viewpoint, we're talking about at least a third to almost half the car is having to be exposed before the driver can even see the traffic that would be coming from a distance. In this clip, the camera is actually fairly close. But if you had a car further down the road, think about still how far back you would have to position your car just to be able to see and hopefully stay out of danger. So, I want to hear what you think. Leave a comment in the section below. Well, the next thing I don't like about my Hellcat is, well, there's no front facing camera. And the reason this is a little bit significant is that this thing has a very long nose on it, okay? And the other thing about it is that that's a lot of distance. You need to be able to really know when you're far too close, because let me tell you, the amount of clearance from the ground to the bottom of this splitter right here, most time is not going to work in most parking lots. So you actually risk damaging this piece right here. So you have to be very conscientious of actually where and how far ahead the nose of your car is. The next thing I don't like about my Dodge Hellcat is the quality of the backup camera. Now, you may not be able to see this in detail from the GoPro, but I can tell you that the image is either 720p or lower. And, you know, for a $70,000 car, they could have done much better. I mean, my wife's Chrysler Pacifica, that camera is excellent. I mean, you can clearly see all the details, whereas this one you cannot. So hopefully Dodge does something to at least improve the quality. The next thing I don't like about my Hellcat is the windows. Now, these have automatic down, but they don't have automatic up. I'm really kind of baffled as to why they didn't do that. I mean, it's like I said again, a $70,000 car, and the windows cannot automatically go up. But on my wife's $40,000 Chrysler Pacifica van, it can. The next item that I don't like about my Dodge Hellcat is the automatic door unlocks. So I have my keys in my pocket. You can see that the door is locked. Now, if I come walking up to open this car door, and I do that, I can't pull the door open. The lock there moved up just slightly, but if you want to get in this thing, you literally got to first just kind of touch it and pull up, and then the car will actually lock. So we're going to lock it again. But like I said, if I come up here and I do this, no dice. But if I walk in here and I just barely touch it, we're in. The other thing that tends to happen sometimes is that when, see there, it's locked. Sometimes I have a habit of when I go to get in the car that I push it. If I push it, then I'm good. But most people will actually forget to push the little button or to pull it. See, look at this, I'm pulling up and nothing. So makes no sense. So another thing that I hope Dodge tackles. Now, the next thing I don't like is the amount of brake dust. I cleaned these wheels 5 days ago, and they are filthy. You can even see in the Brembo, you can see how much brake dust there is. And I know this is more because of the Brembo brakes, but yeah, these things, I mean, you got to do a lot of work to keep these things clean. And I do plan on getting a ceramic coat done on these, where I can just wash it just with the water hose. So the next thing I don't like about the Hellcat, it has to do with the paddle shifters. The paddle shifters can be fun, if you want to, bump down a couple of gears so you can get on the higher end of the RPM, that we can kind of like launch this thing, and no matter kind of what traffic situation you're in. Well, the thing is that in the history when I've had manual transmissions in cars I've had in the past, when you're slowing down, you want to downshift, right? Well, what I've learned from these paddle shifters is if you're going to downshift, you need to see to it that the gear that you're going to go to is at least be at 3,000 RPMs. And for the most part, there'll be a little bit of a lunge, and it'll be from there fairly smooth. But if you downshift to a gear in which that when it actually shifts, If it's at a lower RPM, we'll call it like 1500 to 2000, this thing will literally pull, you'll throw your body forward when that transmission starts to engage. So I typically just tend to leave it in automatic, and I only use the paddle shifters if I'm going to be going up in gears, not down. The next item I don't like is the emergency brake. As you can see, this is in pretty much the obligatory position where you have to use your foot to engage it. Ideally, I personally feel that that should be somewhere here in the center console. I mean, even right here would be fine. You see what I mean? There's enough gap between the seats to do that. Because one of the things that would be so much fun to be able to do with this car is drift it. And trying to do it with a manual foot pedal e-brake is just, it just sucks. So I think if they just put it here with the release button or something, that way you can just pull it as you go, I think that would be perfect. So please, Dodge, do something about that, because Lord knows I hate the foot position e-brake. The next thing I don't like is that the fuel filler system for the Hellcat requires a stupid cap. Let me show you my wife's van. My wife's van is not a $70,000 car. It's not. And it has the capless system. Self vacuums. Love this thing. But when you look at my Hellcat, which costs $70,000 brand new, you got a stupid cap on it. Please, Dodge, make a change. The next thing I don't like, and there's not much that can really be done about it, it's just the length of this door. I mean, it is a few feet to go from here all the way back here. I mean, the doors on my truck, they're not as long. I mean, I can kind of fit them in one frame. We go to my wife's van, we can pretty much fit it in the frame, right? Let's see what comes out over here. Okay. Yeah, so I've got to be a good distance back just to fit this thing. And the problem that you have with this is that with these long doors, I'm telling you, when you get out of the car and your body position is right here, you got a lot of door behind you. So the risk of, dinging somebody else's car door or causing damage to this door is somewhat increased. And last but not least, the final thing that I don't like about this car, and this is the obligatory one, it's the tires. These are just street Pirellis, and all they do is spin when you're trying to deliver all the horsepower this car has. Now, there's in ways in which I kind of like it, because when you're, when you have somebody in the car and you're like launching this thing, when you can feel and hear those tires spinning, I mean, that's a pretty cool little feeling. You know what I mean? So, but if you want to really get this thing hooked up, you got to go get drag radials. You got to get those big 305s that barely have any tread on them, right? And then the other thing you risk that if you do go to, more, sticky drag tires is that, well, you're going to risk, spinning the drive shaft on this thing. So unless you have the money to do the drive shaft, I would almost avoid doing the tire change at all. But that is the last thing I don't like about my 2016 Dodge Hellcat. All right, everybody. Well, that concludes another hellacious car video. We talked about the 13 things I don't like about this Hellcat. But keep in mind, I still love this thing. But what I want to know is what is it that you don't like about the Hellcat? Leave those comments in the section below. I'd love to see what's on, what y'all think, okay? So as always, be sure to like the video, smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.